Hey, before this video starts, I want to mention this is a re-upload because somebody that I credited did not want to be credited for whatever reason they might have. So I'm going to go with, if you hear anything that's like, that's bleeped out, or you just don't hear anything, when it looks like I'm talking, I'm mentioning their name. And I'll have some other stuff just like blocked out and stuff like that. Because they just didn't want to be credited, and I apparently just misread them, or misread what they said. So I'll let you know if this kind of stuff happens in the future. Enjoy the video. Hello, I am Striker Utasa, and welcome to what is going to be a very long rainy day discussion. Now, when I first set up to talk about the crowdfunder, I was actually going to kind of bash on a little bit for not being very good. But then I asked about it in the Risk Rain 2 Discord. And they've completely changed my mind on this item. And I feel like it is vastly underrated. Especially how it is now with the new bleed changes. This item is insane. I have some footage that I like to show during this video, but it is ridiculous how good this item is with other items. Early game, it's a little bit bad, but the longer runs go, especially with Brittle Crown, the item becomes very self-sufficient, where money is less of an issue, and with Brittle Crown, the crowdfunder even starts making you money, which is ridiculous. So you can just have it up constantly. Now, there's a lot of math that I'm going to save y'all, but this item can get up to insane damage numbers, especially when it only takes 2 seconds to get to full speed. And it procs so many on-hit items. Imagine having a Commando M1 as your equipment. That's how good this item is. Actually, I think it might even be better than Commando M1, but it can't scale with attack speed. That's one of the things I don't like about this item, is that it doesn't get any buffs from It doesn't get any buffs from War Banner. It cannot proc Warhorn. There's a few issues I have with this item, but I think it's really strong at the moment. It works really well with Brilliant Behemoth. It works really well with Tri-Tip Daggers. This item is insane with Bleed. Good lord, is insane with Bleed. Crit is insane with this item. Shatter Spleen is insane with this item. Imagine having Cap Crit and Cap Bleed with a Shatter Spleen. That would be ridiculous on an item that shoots so quickly and has good base damage. It can proc sticky bombs, it can proc ATG missiles, it can proc ukuleles. This item can be AoE with ukuleles. It's ridiculous. This item is way better than people give it credit for. It can proc Shattering Justice, and it heavily benefits from Clover. This item is insane, and I don't think it needs to be changed anymore. Daddy Yes Legs suggested making it a lunar item, which I think it would be actually pretty cool, because how it interacts with Brittle Crown, you could see both in the same shop and be like, hey, that's a good combo, I'm going to go ahead and grab that. And depending on the context you run, you might even take that over a Gesture, which is a really good lunar item. And that's kind of a big thing with the Risk Rain 2, is context of your run. And, you know, what items you have on you, how close you are to Mithrix, especially if you're doing a 6mm, which, credit to Charlie on the Risk Rain 2 Discord, that is a much better acronym than whatever the heck I was thinking of. 6mm stands for Stage 6 Mithrix Monsoon, which I love way more than Middlebick, which is Monsoon No Loot Boss Kill, which is just really not a great acronym and very confusing. Well, 6mm is really easy to explain, it's really easy to say. So credit to Charlie on that. I'll have their Discord profile picture and everything up. But back to the crowdfunder, there was a discussion that I just got done with, why I was done with it, in the Risk Rain 2 General Discord, Risk Rain 2 Game Discussion 1 channel, that kind of got heated because it was arguing between Roll Capacitor and Crowdfunder. These are vastly different items. Like, let's say I'm on Stage 5, and there's a multi-shop right in front of me. In one cell, there's a crowdfunder. In one cell, there's a capacitor. And the next one, let's say it's a question mark, whatever. Depending on what I have at that moment about to go into the Mithrix fight, I'll take either one. Probably an equal chance. If I have a crowbar, some bands, and a couple fuel cells, of course I'll take capacitor. But if I have capped bleed, a little bit of crit with a harvester scythe, and let's see what else, a shattering justice on a slow attack speed character like Accurate or something, I will take Crowdfunder. I will heavily take Crowdfunder. And that makes me kind of sad because a lot of players would see the real capacitor and just kind of tunnel vision in on it and not stop to think, wait a second, what do I have? They'll see capacitor, they'll see this really, really good equipment and be like, that's the item I'm grabbing. When the Crowdfunder would really increase their shots of winning the game. Especially with how it does in Phase 4 of Mithrix. I'll have a video, I'll have some footage shown out here, but this item is insane on Stage 4. Alright, so this is the test with Crowdfunder on Phase 4. I've given myself a lot of random items just to get back over time. I do have God Mode enabled, so that way I cannot die during this phase, because I'm just going to test how quickly I get items back while being right up next to Mithrix with Crowdfunder. Okay, it's already left in Daisy. It's already a squid polyp. Yo! What? Alright, Crowdfunder, I see you! I see you, Crowdfunder! Yo! Just one more. Yo, that was so quick! That was insanely quick! Wow! I wasn't even using an M1. Imagine that on Commando while also holding down M1. You get your items back so quickly. I just had a bunch of fodder items on. I had God Mode on so I could show you exactly how this item would work. I'll have God Mode on for most of the stuff I'm going to show you in these kind of videos. Because there's no reason for me to be able to die while trying to test something, especially when testing something in this game. Especially on Mithrix, because there is no console command to get to Mithrix immediately with 25 minutes. Really, I don't see one. If there is one, please let me know, because that would help out so much. It takes about 30 minutes, because you want to get there around the same time as you get there in a normal run, or even like a low or faster, slower or faster pace. It's hard to test things in this game, so I don't want to die and then have to retest them. So that's why God Mode will be enabled for most of this footage. But yeah, the Crowdfunder is kind of awesome at Phase 4, as you just saw. That's ridiculous. Like, imagine if my last item that I picked up was some crit glasses. Imagine if it was bleed. Imagine if it was ATG missile. There are so many good items that you can get on Stage 5 that you can make sure that's your last item so that you get it immediately in the Mithrix fight. It's ridiculous. And multi's ridiculous with this item. If you're playing multi with no gun, or even any equipment, I highly recommend grabbing Crowdfunder, because it is ridiculous on multi. I love it so much. So, multi is a character that synergizes, especially with nail gun, but this goes for pretty much all of its equipment. Except I guess Scrap Launcher and Rebar. Like Saw and nail gun are really powerful. And I'll have a video on multi at some point, because there's so much to this character that I just didn't know about, because it's not mainstream, and that's the main thing I want to do with this series, is make these really lesser-known item interactions well-known. Now, multi is a character, especially if you're playing Nailgun Saw, you want to prioritize tri-tip daggers. You want to prioritize crit for Harvester Scythes and Predatory. It's not a character that you really want to get bans and stuff like that on. You do want fuel cells, of course. You definitely want Gesture, because he's equipment. He has a retool. Now, Spinal Tonic is really good on multi, because you know he has two equipment, so you still have an equipment and you have that 100% uptime. Spinal Tonic is incredible with Crowdfunder, because it doubles the base damage, which means you're getting double bleed, double crit. You're getting 8 times the damage, because you're doubling because of crit, and you're doubling because of Tonic. 8 times damage Crowdfunder that can also proc ATG missile. Consistently, I might add. This item shoots so quickly. If it benefited from... if it benefited from stuff like War Banner, Soldier Syringes, and stuff like that, it would be even more ridiculous. But it doesn't, and if that's a buff that they ever do this item, it's going to become the best item in the game, in my opinion. It'll be ridiculous. Or the best equipment, sorry. But so you're playing multi right now. You have Nailgun Saw, let's say that. So the items that you're prioritizing, you're on hits, obviously. You're prioritizing soldier syringes. So attack speed on hits, you're prioritizing crit, of course. If you see a multi-shop, you're not going to take an ATG missile over, or you're not going to take a Renault's band over an ATG missile. You're going to take the ATG missile because you're an on-hit character. So grabbing capacitor over crowdfunder at that stage 5 equipment multi-shop doesn't make much sense if you have all of this really good on-hit stuff in your loadout. So why not go with the crowdfunder? Especially if you already have a brittle crown, which I suggest that people pick brittle crown whenever it's a... If you're not going for looping, brittle crown is insane because you just get more gold so you can go quicker. So crowdfunder is ridiculous on multi because it gets the spinal tonic buff. It gets all of his on hits because you're already picking up a bunch of them. It's such a good equipment. Like, I cannot underestimate. I cannot underexplain how amazing this equipment is. I thought this video, no joke, I was worried this video was going to be too long because I had so much stuff to say about the crowdfunder. It is just ridiculous. I even have a separate video, which I'm going to use a little bit of footage of that, but I decided to upload it just because it was kind of ridiculous how good it was. On Commando with God mode enabled, of course, because I don't want to die during testing. With above average RNG, it's a simulated run with command consoles. Command console. I'd have to say console commands because command exists. Like, it's a really cool item name, but I'd rather just say commands. But that crowdfunder was insane there. Even at far range, I was getting items back really quickly on phase 4, and then when I got up close, it just kind of shredded him. And even not on phase 4, on phase 1, 2, or 3, it was ridiculous as well. And capacitor in that exact same run would have still been amazing because it's capacitor, but it would have been nearly as good if I had grabbed crowdfunder. And that's another big thing, because you always have to think in Risk Scoring 2 when you're evaluating how good an item is, especially equipment, you have to think about the context of your run. If, let's say, you have no healing items and you're about to go to the Mythics fight, you got really bad RNG, you somehow survive, maybe you have a Captain Healing Field, maybe you have one Bungus' Engineer, and that's how you've been living this entire time. In that same equipment multi-shop, would you take a foreign fruit or a royal capacitor if you already had good damage but you were severely lacking on survivability? Hopefully you would take the foreign fruit and not tunnel vision on capacitor. It's a very strong equipment, but it's not the best go-to equipment in every single run. Same with not having mobility items in Milky Chrysalis. If you already had really good damage and had really good healing, why not use Milky Chrysalis for phase 4? Why not use Milky Chrysalis for the entire fight even? If you have a lot of bans and you're playing somebody like Captain or Loader, why not pick up Blast Shower instead of Capacitor? You're already doing a lot of damage with bans. Why do you need another way to proc bans? You're already Loader. Same with Artificer. And that's what kind of bugs me about the community sometimes, that they don't... People say that these items are bad, so they just never take them, instead of experimenting on their own. A big issue with that is tier lists. People will have items in, like, D tier, F tier, and even though, I'm going to bring up Wooly Gaming by name here, because he's the biggest person when it comes to tier list video. I don't say biggest as in he's the biggest problem here. He just has the biggest viewership. And he says constantly during that it depends on the context of your run, but people seem to just kind of ignore that. They see Royal Capacitor in S tier and Forgive Me Please in C. I think it was C tier that he put the item, which I have issues with that, but whatever. That's not bad. Forgive Me Please, it's about Crowdfunder. And they see Forgive Me Please in C tier, and even though they have a ton of on-kill items that would be really useful in the Mithrix fight, they grab Royal Capacitor instead, because they don't stop and think, what is good in the context of this run, instead of, oh shoot, it's a capacitor! which is sad to me. Because in this game, there's so many really cool item interactions, and there's still new stuff that I'm learning today. Credit today opened my eyes when it comes to multi, and when it comes to the crowdfunder. And I plan on doing a video on multi and just lesser known stuff in general. Because multi-saw has so many cool interactions with it that I just didn't know about. And now I do, and it makes me want to really play multi as a melee character. Like, Rose Buckler and Red Whip work so well with Saw. Because Saw, like, you could still be swinging Saw and be using Red Whip. It's so cool. I'm sorry for cursing, but I just get so excited when talking about this video game. It's so in-depth, and it makes me sad that people see something like a Mired Urn in multiplayer and think, oh shoot, I need to immediately scrap that. That's not great here. When it could carry a run. I had a run where I was captain. I had an Acrid, and I think it was a Rex, but I'm not sure. I forget on the third. An Artificer, I think it was. Maybe. I don't know. It was some other range character. And I took the urn, and instead of scrapping it, I kept it for the Mithrix fight. And it was insane there. I had so much healing, and Mithrix just couldn't move, but that was on, like, stage 4, I wanted... No, it wasn't 4. It was, like, stage 3 or something like that, where I got the Mired Urn. And a player that doesn't want to experiment with items in whatever context, and just sees a Mired Urn and is playing multiplayer and like, oh, shoot, I need to scrap that immediately, wouldn't have tried that. When it helped us proc Deathmark, it slowed Mithrix down, so he basically was only able to focus me. And it was just an insane item for that run. And that, again, that's kind of makes me sad that people look at a tier list or look at what the community considers bad and just accepts that instead of trying new stuff themselves. And I feel like that's an issue that people are slowly getting better with. And I know for a fact, especially in my case, that I would have never given Crowdfunder a second thought without starting the series. I decided to do Crowdfunder because it was my least favorite of the equipments. Now it might actually be my favorite. Besides Tiki, of course, this little guy. He's so freaking cute. I love him. Look at him. He's so cute. But Crowdfunder, I'm going to be taking this a lot more often. Because it is just so powerful in the context of the run. I also want to mention real quick that it's really good on Acrid. Because, especially in single player, in multiplayer it's not that much of an issue because you just have your friends take it down with you. Like maybe you're playing with a captain or playing with a commando, someone who benefits greatly from on-hit items so that they can take them all. You don't really need this as often. But I had a run with Acrid with a Crowdfunder, and Crowdfunder helped a lot. Especially with lesser whiffs, I would hit him with my special, running poison, of course. Because Blight's just... Actually, I might do an episode on Blight at some point, because I feel like Blight is not nearly as bad as people say it is. But I was running poison, and things were being left at 1. I just pressed Q twice, boom, boom, it's dead. I shot 1 bullet with a capacitor. It cost me like a few bucks, but who cares? I was able to kill an enemy with it, and I got more money back from that. Another important thing to think about with Crowdfunder is its interactions with Strides of Heresy, which is this item right here. You can use this while the Crowdfunder is active. You can be invincible while this thing is active. Which Strides is already a decent item on multi, because it just gives you iframes so you can get away from Mithrix, so you can just get, if you're stuck in a very sticky situation, like a Wandering Vagrant's about to blow up, you just kind of press shift. Because multi's kind of slow is an issue. So you can keep shooting the Crowdfunder while you're invincible. Like, what? That's so cool. I think you use other equipment too. But I thought that was worth mentioning. Because it can proc so many things, and it's basically just an M1 you can use while shifting. Like, I think a really cool command run that I might try in the future is Crowdfunder with Strides of Heresy, Hard Light Afterburner, A few of them probably, just for a lot of charges. And I actually a few stacks of Shards of Heresy. And you just kind of stay in Shards of Heresy the whole, and a Brittle Crown. You just kind of stay in Shards of Heresy the whole time and just crowdfund everything the day. Which just sounds really fun. And to be honest with you, I can see that happening in an actual run. You find a hard light afterburner printer, you already have strides and a Brittle Crown. You could do that in an actual looping run. Like, that's not unfeasible. If you get like a hard light afterburner, or even if you get a purity, that might be interesting. It doesn't increase the cooldown, does it? No, it does not. It increases how long it lasts. But yeah, that's just so cool, and I love this item now. It's so cool. That's another thing that people talk about when discussing Crowdfunder, is that the money cost is the money cost. It's not a big issue, really, because you can choose whether or not to use it. People see things like Gesture the Drown and fuel cells and how they... Well, Gesture the Drown actually hurts Crowdfunder pretty badly, which sucks because it's such an insane... Like, it's such an insanely good lunar item. So if you get if you have Gesture the Drown on you and you see a Crowdfunder, it can't really take it unless it's stage 5 and you don't really need any more money. Unless you have a Brittle Crown. Then Brittle Crown actually helps with that. Again, a lot of context here, which I'm trying to bring up. In early game, what my strategy is, what I've decided, or what I've come to works best, what I found to work best, sorry. I'm still learning how to speak. What I found that works best is just rushing the teleporter, hitting it, and then buying items around it. I usually get to Mythrix around 20 minutes in, if not earlier. Which is just a ridiculous pace, and it makes the fight way easier, because his really fast attack doesn't really do much damage, and I don't get one-shotted as much. Given the Chimeras are still extremely dangerous, and they will one-shot you. But even though you get less items, the scaling is way better, so that way, even without the huge power boost that above average RNG can give you, getting below average RNG you can still win with, just because your character's base kit and the items that you get aren't usually completely useless. Like, if you have, if you just got, like, crowbars and shield drainers and stuff like that, they're still keeping you alive while you whittle them down. And they made Phase 4 a lot easier. So, having below average RNG for that isn't as bad. But money isn't that bad if it's getting a use. And when I'm doing that kind of strategy, I'll sometimes end up with a good bit of money left over. So Crowdfunder isn't really an issue there. But if you're trying to full clear every single stage, then it can be an issue. And that is a viable strategy, though it has a lot more, or at least how I've found it, has a lot more reliance on RNG. Some players might argue that it's the best way. And as long as you're winning your runs, there isn't really a wrong way to play this video game. If you're losing constantly, then you might be playing the game in a pretty suboptimal way. I'm not going to say bad, because it's a video game. If you're having fun, then you're winning, because you're having fun. You don't want to get home from your 12-hour shift at Walmart to be screamed at by the people that you're playing the game wrong. Especially if it's a single-player game that has no competitive aspect besides speedrunning. And I guess Prismatic Trials, but that is kind of just speedrunning. But yeah, I really like Crowdfunder now. I got a little bit off topic there because I was talking about just bad items in general. Or things that are considered to be bad. But I thought that Crowdfunder was bad before I started researching it for this video. Now I really like the item, and I'm glad that it's here. I used to hope that they would completely rework it or remove it from the game, but I'm really happy they didn't. Yeah. That's going to be it for today's rainy day discussion. Shout out to... I'm going to check real quick. I think Sleepy Panda helped me out with this video, actually. Sleepy Panda 57, shout out to them. They wanted me to actually record the footage for Phase 4 Mythrix with a simulated RNG run. They were the ones who told me to record that, so I did. Let's see, who else should I shout out? Shout out to a lot of people in the Risk of Rain 2 general discussion Discord. They helped me out a lot, and a lot of them even subscribed, which is going to help out this series a lot. So shout out to you guys. That was awesome of you. It's really awkward to me to talk about making videos because it always feels like self-promotion when I'm really just trying to explain what I want to use the information on. Because when I'm making a video about this kind of stuff, I need information that I'm going to just sit here and talk about. So it's kind of a different context than, hey, I need help getting better at the game. There's that word again, context, very important here in this video, apparently. So I just kind of feel weird talking about it, but so far in the Risk of Rain 2 Discord, I haven't been told, hey, shut up, no self-promoting here. And that makes me really happy. Because I feel like this kind of content, there's not much of it, and I already talked about this in the Risk of Rain 1 video, so I don't want to drag on too long. Or the Risk of Rain 2, the first Rating Day discussion video. Don't want to drag on too long, but I feel like there's just not much of this out there at all. And that's where the issue lies in, because there's not conflicting opinions out there in a greater scale. Because if you hear, again, I'm going to bring him up, but I have nothing against the guy, Wooly Gaming calling an item bad, you don't have another guy who's calling the item good, so that way you have different opinions. It's just one person's voice being the loudest. And that's a big issue with the community, because you have these arguments about proc chains and how they are the most important thing in the game, when there are so many powerful ways to win a game of Risk of Rain 2. Either you're going for a god run, or obliterating, or doing a 6mm. There are so many things that you can do to be really powerful that are not just proccing an ATG that procs a sticky bomb. Like, Forgive Me Please. That's a big example of a way to get strong without using on-hits at all. Now, again, context here, you don't choose a Forgive Me Please when you have no on-kills, but if you have a lot of them, then it helps out a lot. And bans. Now, of course, ATG can proc bans, but if you're playing Loader, you don't really need proc chains to kill Mithrix. You just need a few bans. As your only source of damage, even, because Loader is just insane with those items. But Wooly Gaming puts a lot of emphasis on proc chains. I'm not sure how much he does now, but I remember this being a big issue a while ago. And I don't really follow him that well, so hopefully I don't say anything that's not true. I never tune into his streams like that. But he puts a lot of emphasis on proc chains. So people hear that and tunnel in on that, instead of thinking, okay, proc chains are powerful, what else is powerful? And especially with Bleed now, that's a whole nother avenue on to win the game. You have Bleed, you have bans, you have on-kills, you have proc chains. There's so many good things you can do in this game. Nukahan's Opinion can carry Mithrix. You just have to be very, very careful during Phase 4. Good lord. But it's just, there are very, very powerful options in this game, and that's another reason why I love it, because if proc chains were the only way to be powerful, I don't think I would like it as much, because it's just focusing on one thing instead of the myriad of ways that you can win a run. That's the reason why I do 6mm, because there's so many ways to win that every run is very different, instead of all of them feeling like, well, I didn't get proc chains, I'm dead. Which is just really cool to me. Like, I had a Happiest Mask Chimera in one of my runs, just do an amazing amount of damage to a Mithrix in Phase 3. Which, that of course takes a lot of RNG, but just the fact that item can do like half his health or something insane, like, I forget how much it was. I think it might have been a quarter, but it was still a really sizable chunk to an item that is considered really bad. Just makes me really happy. And Head Stompers, I had a run with Cornflake. Shout out to that dude. He's been really cool so far on the Discord. I had a run where this was my only form of damage. It was just a really low RNG. I didn't hit Void Fields, didn't do anything like that. I had 4 Kaja's Bans from Printer in Stage 4, and Head Stompers, and 2 Hapu Feathers. And that was the strongest thing I was doing by far. I think I had like a Sticky Bomb or something else that was powerful on Captain. So I was doing, also had a Blast Shower equipment. So I was head stomping something, shocking it, and then immediately doing Orbital Probe. I was head stomping it, waiting a bit, shocking it, and then using orbital probe, then hitting blast shower so the orbital probe would actually hit and proc bans again. And it just was so much damage, it was ridiculous. That didn't take any on hits. Besides, I guess if you want to count them as on hits, bans, but I put them in a whole different category. That didn't require an ATG missile proccing a sticky bomb, doing that much damage. And we almost won the run, but I was camping around my my healing field because I was playing one heal, one hack captain, and a Chimera spawned right next to me. I didn't hear it because it was doing that little spinny attack, and I was focusing on dodging that. So I got one-shotted, sadly. But still, like, I got halfway through phase 3 on Mithrix, like, with just a head stompers and 4 controllers, man, it's my only real means of damage. That is ridiculous. The item was doing on a crit, I think it had like 2 crit glasses or something like that. The item was doing on a crit like a fourth of his health in all the phases. Like, it was so much fun and just so cool. And that's one of the reasons I love this video game, because there's so many cool things you can do. But yeah, this became a video more about not underestimating items than Crowdfunder. But let that be the major takeaway. If you watch this to the end, which thank you if you've done that. Don't underestimate items in this game. They might not look strong at first. That you might hear that they're bad, but do your own experimenting. I highly recommend downloading the console command mod and learning its tools. I have been able to do so much testing with that thing. It has completely opened the doors of this game. And I love it for doing that. But yeah, this was Rainy Day Discussion number 4. Probably my favorite so far. I've been Striker Utasa, and have a good day. Oh, by the way, the next video is going to be on my favorite Lunar item, Corpse Bloom. I have a lot to say about this item, and thankfully I have tomorrow off. So it's going to be a pretty long one.